Welcome to Mining Course. My name is Jorge Leon, and together with Cesar Campos, we are going to develop today's program. Cesar, how are you? It's a pleasure, Jorge, as always.
Nice to have you here, Jorge.
Well, the topic of mining is very important. That's why this program, Mining Route, which has been around for many, many years, will address, in this case, Cesar and fellow viewers. We are going to address the issue of illegal mining, which we hear about everywhere. But this is a specialized program, right, on illegal mining. How much does this affect all Peruvians? How many could become a serious problem for the country and for all Peruvians?
Reiterating that it is a focus of extortion, organized crime, environmental damage, damage to archaeological sites, human trafficking, a series of implications that here on this program, Jorge, we have developed with the utmost clarity so that you can understand it.
That's right. And there's a lot of talk about this tool that has been given, which is REINFO. Well, the REINFO is basically a document that truly gives you a license to do whatever you want. And that is wrong. No, none of the governments have been able to regulate it in a real way. And now they want to kick the can down the road and keep kicking it. He's been at this over 12 years, and that's dangerous, right?
The report, endorsed by the Energy and Mines Committee chaired by a leader, was approved. A radical parliamentarian like Victor Cutipa has indicated that this should be extended for 2 years. President Jose Heri, Jorge, said this week in various interviews that he thinks it should be shortened to 1 year. At least we know that the executive branch could then review the law, which will not be discussed. Furthermore, by the way, in Congress, because they are in the middle of a debate about the national budget.
To discuss this topic, we have decided on the program to invite José Salardi, former Minister of Economy and Finance, to address the subject of growth, private investment in illegal mining, and also to Fernando Cillóniz, Engineer Fernando Cillóniz, who will be speaking to us about the President's plan to enhance REINFO. It will be President Cherry himself who will address us on this important matter. To provide you with a better understanding, a report has been prepared by the Rumbo Minero team. Feel free to proceed with it.
Private investment once again ignites the engine of the Peruvian economy with force. In Q3 of 2025, it surged by 11.4%, marking its biggest growth in over 12 years. Far surpassing any recent achievement, including the remarkable recovery post-pandemic, setting a new unprecedented record. Experts emphasize that private investment supports nearly 80% of economic growth, driving employment, business dynamism, and productive activity. The dynamism also comes from mining investment. The Central Reserve Bank's outlook was for it to grow around 6.2% in real terms. But by the end of the third quarter, the expansion was 15%, a little more than double. Since there has been significant investment in mining infrastructure and also some equipment for the sector. However, this progress coexists with structural challenges. The Peruvian Institute of Economics warned that Peru accounts for 44% of illegal gold exported by South America, positioning itself as the leading country of origin in the region, followed by Colombia. In the last 2 decades, these exports have multiplied 8-fold, and if the trend continues, by the end of 2025, they would reach $12 billion, a level comparable to that of formal gold. In this context, the debate on mining formalization becomes particularly relevant. The Energy and Mines Commission of Congress approved the extension of REINFO until the 31st of December 2027. Along with controversial measures such as the suspension of exclusions and the reinstatement of operators removed for failing to meet minimum requirements. From the executive branch, President Jose Heri confirmed he favors extending the validity of the Comprehensive Mining Formalization Registry, but specified that this extension should only be for 1 year, not 2, as approved by the Commission. For the leader, an annual term is reasonable and technically more suitable for a transitional government. A relevant fact is that the revenue generated by the REINFO holders between January and October of 2025 increased by 637 million sols compared to 2024. With this data, Congresswoman Diana Gonzalez argued that it is false that the 50,000 excluded represented a stable source of formal employment or a solid base of taxpayers. If revenue grows with fewer registrants, she indicated, it is because many of them did not engage in real productive activity nor fulfill their tax obligations. In a scenario where signs of recovery and persistent challenges converge, Peru has the opportunity to align investment, formalization and governance to move towards more competitive, responsible, and sustainable development.
Well, as mentioned earlier, we are now in the company of the former Minister of Economy and Finance, José Salardi. Welcome, Mr. Salardi.
Hey, what's
How are
up?
you? So, we are going to discuss the expansion of private investment, illegal mining activities, and several other subjects. Therefore, let's begin with Cesar.
Thanks, Jorge. Greetings, Jose. We're glad to have you with us at Rumbo Minero. The most current thing we have is the appearance of the President of the Council of Ministers with a series of cabinet members before the Constitution Committee of Congress to request legislative powers in favor of the executive. Among the mentioned areas besides combating citizen insecurity, institutional strengthening stands out due to the 4 axes being implemented for development. There is responsible economic growth. What is your opinion on the initiatives that have been presented regarding this field of responsible economic growth?
I think it's good, right? But this, after a couple months, changing began. What remains for a transition, however, there is the intention and will to keep moving forward, because I believe that every step we take will be crucial in terms of its significance. To continue accelerating future growth and leave the House increasingly more organized, let's say, for the new government. The focus is clear, measures that also continue to seek the simplification of procedures. At the customs level, also improve the collection issue, but without imposing more taxes, which will be
It
seen.
indeed addresses tax matters which are quite
Taxpayers.
significant for the industry, one might even say striking.
Yes, it focuses on simplifying without increasing taxes, aiming to improve presence and efficiency rather than burdening with additional financial obligations. Regarding oversight, to make progress on the collection issue. It is crucial that the APP's law, despite unexpected changes at the end, remains with the positive aspects it originally had. Resuming those aspects is highly important for its effectiveness. That would indeed be a significant legacy for this administration, passing a new law. A new law aimed at promoting Peru's development by expediting the project awarding process and ensuring improved management for future endeavors, facilitating the country's progress in the upcoming years. Contractual execution. There is also a very interesting complementary measure that has been proposed. Simplifying the matter of property release, often a significant challenge in practice, is crucial, isn't it? Therefore, making it easier is essential. I am in support of this initiative and believe it will bring positive results. I am eager to see the effects it will have and hope that Congress will back it to help our country progress further. Don't you think?
Now, you as a specialist in economics, it has been discussed many times. A lot of governments, to be perfectly honest, have failed to state it a little more clearly with the issue of the enticing proposal for the miner who is informal that really wants to change. Because we already know that among the informal ones, there are radicals who, even if you offer them the best proposal, will not change. Others hide behind the REINFO, which evades the law, and it's quite an issue. But as an expert, what possible solutions do you foresee for these particular miners who may require special attention or assistance in their current situation? Small miners exclaim, "Hey there," and vocalize their thoughts. I formalize myself, and immediately I'm approached by the Minister of Environment, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of this, of that. In order to address this problem effectively, it is crucial for a clear path to be established. The government must take the lead in setting this path for resolution. What would that path be?
Truly, it appears to be a widespread issue with informality. Wouldn't you agree? Which escapes the mining that has a complex situation. We are cognizant of the fact that prices have reached a new high in recent times. Of situations, but the state needs to approach the situation differently, don't you think? How can we make that formal sector more appealing? Approximately 70% of the segment is estimated to be living with this informality, making up the majority of the group. In the end, we all suffer the consequences of their actions and ultimately lose out on what they bring about. Therefore, I think it's crucial, as you point out, that leading someone to believe everything is fine, only to afterwards subject them to the full force of the law, is unfair. Discourage them and to say, why come this way, right? Really, we need to create attractive conditions for them, periods of amnesty. All of a sudden, there is a chance to receive special discounted rates and enjoy a comprehensive package deal. Appealing and truly motivating. And so they can also see that maintaining a formal demeanor definitely comes with a range of advantages. I experienced an extremely challenging period during the pandemic, but it taught me valuable lessons. It was evident that the informal approach incurred significantly higher costs compared to maintaining a formal demeanor. Because at that moment, when we were in an extreme situation, when the state wanted to step in and support with the different measures it could offer, I was hitting this reality that it wasn't easy to get into informality because of all the paperwork involved, due to the multiple circumstances and criteria required to meet the qualifications at that particular time in order to access the different opportunities and choices offered by the state. So I strongly believe that a shift in perspective is necessary in our approach to work, as informality is on the rise across various sectors of the economy. For instance, in recent times, we have observed this trend taking hold. This situation concerns the housing sector, correct? Even though we have illegal measures, the drug trafficking problem remains, and the consequences of land trafficking in the market are dreadful. And there, the ordinary citizen also loses, because entering through that route and reaching a purely informal dwelling ultimately generates a series of extra costs that, in the end, will cost you more than having acquired a home in a consolidated area formally. Tadama, I believe there are many messages and themes that need to be addressed more thoroughly, and let's hope that the proposals for the next government bring, let's say, a clearer and more detailed measure of how to tackle these situations.
Jose, what kind of state should the new national political representation seek to establish following the upcoming elections next year? Because you have well described the problems that exist. And when we hear our straining our voices talking about attracting investments, it's not only about there being an attraction for a certain channeling of capital and exploiting a resource, whether natural or an industry, whatever it may be, but also the context, the environment, the facilitation that the state can provide, public-private partnerships. From your point of view, how should we guide that?
Yes, look. Actually, we have experienced excellent years. I have even had discussions recently with investment bankers about potential opportunities, who has informed me that the conclusion of this year in Peru is exceptionally captivating and different from previous years of electoral closures. There is an abundance of anticipation with numerous agreements being reached and bond issuances underway, all indicating a prevailing confidence in the strong performance of the economy. Still, we must always be dissatisfied because we can grow much more. And as you rightly say, it's essential to establish an environment conducive to private investment movement, facilitating their path towards growth and development. The necessity for reform within the state is undeniable. We must decisively begin to untangle the complexities that have created a system filled with endless bureaucratic obstacles that one can easily become ensnared in. You are in the mining sector. They know in detail how the evolution of project durations has come about, of the little support even provided by the ministry for what it really should be, on how to streamline the process and expedite the handling of these projects, which requires a more efficient treatment and procedure. Those $60 billion that are currently waiting buried deep underground can emerge very soon and generate and contribute to you at least 2 extra fixed points of economic growth, which is why we will be at more than 5% growth per year going forward. But that implies clarity, working hand in hand with the public-private sector. The private sector knows where the pain is from these things and what procedures are unnecessary and how they can be improved here. There needs to be a lot of openness for this. Naturally, every project we undertake becomes inherently complex due to the diverse context we operate in, various pressures we encounter, and conflicting interests we must navigate. In the country over the past few decades, there has been a trend in mining where formal and serious mining ventures have faced obstacles in gaining entry to specific areas. Those regions have proven resistant to the introduction of formal mining operations. We have brought about the most terrible chaos in existence today, considering all the predation that has taken place, the resulting environmental damage, and the prejudice against the populace that has been further impoverished. That services do not reach them. So I believe that this perspective needs to be put on display, discussed openly, because it is a fundamental national issue. By allowing informality and illegality to dominate, we make a grave mistake in letting the country slip from our grasp. This topic, for example, about reinforcement or wanting to expand again without giving clear conditions about it, also where we are heading, I believe that there should indeed be a different kind of prudence so that the country moves in a well-focused line of formality. And suddenly, if the bureaucracy to enter this regime is very complicated, because unfortunately we are becoming skilled at creating obstacles, but let's shift our focus towards simplicity. Let's develop means that can effectively draw and pave the way for the formalization process that our country requires.
Now, in your role as Energy and Mines Minister, you were previously in the field of
economics and finance.
specifically economy and finance. Has been in different world events, right? Were you at PDAC, where we were both present at the same time and shared the same space, and has been able to talk to the large global multinationals that are the ones that invest in mining countries? Which is which? What did those conversations leave you with regarding how the large multinationals view potentially investing much more in Peru? About mining in Peru? Yes, I mean...
At this very fair we attended in Canada, where we happened to meet, this first thing before entering was a moment. When you visit the Peruvian pavilion, keep in mind that Argentina was overcrowded due to the timing of your visit, right? See. However, Peru offers a wide array of attractions and experiences for you to enjoy. An invaluable possession with a wealth of experience spanning 3 decades within the open market and supporting various investments. Our journey started with energy and mining, involving meetings with major industry players, shaping our path to where we are today. The majority are involved in numerous projects and are enthusiastic about investing in available resources. But in the one-on-one, you will find a list of problems that haven't been resolved yet, right? Since there is the tax issue on one hand, with sometimes little predictability of what is being applied, since the ministry takes time in granting permits and approving an environmental issue, on the other hand, since I have time, I wanted to please expand my project so I could deal with my tailings, but you aren't giving authorization and the space is filling up and I'm going to have to simply close the mine because I cannot, because it will cause environmental damage. Those things cannot happen. I mean, if you already have the big players involved in the country, create the conditions for resources to continue flowing and moving, and many have strong checks to continue investing, and they were bets to continue expanding operations of projects of 3,000, additional minerals totaling 4,000 that may have an impact. Incredible, but here, unfortunately, as I tell you, I believe that re-examination of how those permits and all that red tape are managed, it's typical, right? If I've already given permission for a whole specific area, I can't be checking point by point and revalidating that, losing months after months or sometimes years to keep moving forward with my project. For instance, I observed that proposals such as Grupo Buenaventura's request for a regulatory exemption are now well-established measures that have reached a high level of development. To have a single understanding in the ministry to centralize this once and for all and go all in and bet, but it's a mining country. I mean, we have to. The Byzantine discussions always continue. We shouldn't export this. They possess raw materials that need to be processed, but are unable to extract them, add value, create wealth, and advance into an economic transition. The resources are there, but the necessary steps are not being taken to maximize their potential. So I believe those are the kinds of situations that we need to support and confront directly so that the contribution and the benefit. We witnessed it in Cajamarca, back in the days when Yanacocha was brimming with water 10 years ago. And we see that it is Cajamarca today, sitting on tens of billions of dollars in projects that are beating you. The informal sectors are also beating you, and it's going to be the most complex thing. And ultimately, by doing that, you would manage to transform a specific region that, frankly, ought not to be counted among the nation's poorest areas.
Cajamarca should be rich.
Once the wealthiest, its fortunes declined because of opposition to mining activities and the challenging circumstances prevailing in that region. And what it gave. I think it's time to see the axis differently and more from a current situation. We offer fascinating metals at competitive prices, alluring deals, and unbeatable quality. We have a robust supply of something to contribute to the world's current dynamics in significant quantities. In the future, we may also consider supplementing this with additional measures, such as special economic interventions and others. Bring investment, bring industry, and start generating transformation. We need to find a way out soon, correct?
Well, the risk that the mobility of illegal economies in mining presents every time, Jose, they are higher, aren't they? $12 billion being moved.
We export the same products to both categories equally.
Certainly, don't you agree? The border is definitely becoming increasingly pronounced. Soda, this represents a structural issue that has a significant impact on the formal dynamics of the economy as well as in the fiscal aspect. Relying on these two axes, economic management plus fiscal impact, what immediate measures could be taken regarding this mobility of illegal mining?
No, I think that when it was time to be at the Ministry of Economy, Sunat opened a very interesting plan to operationalize it short term, right? And it's an issue I think they had already identified a traceability. I believe the current administration should resume that plan. That will help, but Sunat can't go alone, right? It needs real support. The police are convinced they must provide him with protection due to being clear about the situation. We must admit we are currently dealing with an illegal situation. Having superior resources, equipment, and benefits often puts one in a more advantageous position. We also require additional efforts in gathering intelligence information in order to complement our work effectively. I believe that even so, months are still missing, but progress can still be made. The government is making efforts. They have even prioritized security as having a specific target in mind is important. However, the current data doesn't back it up. Therefore, we need to make some changes. To be unmistakably present in that space, yet with clarity. However, the determination exists. Therefore, I believe there is many issues that have been worked on with measures that need to be supported, and undoubtedly we lack a lot of infrastructure for the issue of prisons, for the issue of police stations, for the issue of equipment. And I think that private sector must be a real commitment and the front of the guilds. There are also mechanisms collected through taxes. It's not about donating money, it's about investing in the country, because ultimately this will benefit everyone. So it's not only me who is experiencing this. This issue is directly impacting the business associations and guilds. Therefore, it is necessary to make a commitment to support the state, as it has become evident that the state alone is unable to resolve the issue effectively. Let's come together in aiding the state for a lasting solution. In order to progress effectively, we must collaborate on this agreement and actively implement practical actions, don't you think?
Many thanks to José Salardi,
Thanks.
former Minister of Economy and Finance. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Well, now let's go to a commercial break and we'll be back.
Thanks to you. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, time for a quick commercial break. Back shortly. Well, we now enter the America Mining segment. We are going to communicate as we always do. Hey there, viewers. Coming to you live from Wall Street, New York. We have the pleasure of connecting with the international director of our magazine, Rumbo Minero, José Gonzáles. How are you today?
Thank you, Jorge. I am absolutely thrilled to be here in this wonderful setting.
We are going to discuss international mining topics. A BHP from Australia, has just made a second attempt to acquire Anglo American from England. Tell us it couldn't happen. What happened?
Well, Bloomberg disclosed during the weekend that Anglo had made yet another attempt to cause disruption in order to prevent the imminent merger between Anglo American and Teck Resources from being approved. And the offer, in contrast to the one from the previous year, which had been quite complex because it required Anglo to divest itself of portions of its operational segments prior to the merger, it was simpler. An offer in cash and shares. Considering Anglo American's market valuation stands at $41.8 billion, alongside BHP, which is the globe's foremost copper producer within the mining sector, it's worth $133,000 millions of dollars. It happens 3 weeks before Anglo and Teck, their shareholders, vote on the merger of both companies. The merger of both companies, along with the BHP offer, follows a wave of acquisitions in recent years, indicating a trend towards consolidation, where the expansion is fundamentally sought in copper. Well, after BHP's acquisition of Anglo failed, BHP's offer for Anglo and Teck have agreed to merge as their copper operations complement each other perfectly, solidifying their alliance in the industry, particularly in the Atacama Desert and Chile. Well, in Chile, across both of those companies, the prior offer that was presented amounted to $49 billion. And despite the fact that the company's valuation was moving, the argument centered on what the premium would have amounted to, and nevertheless, no offer was extended. None. This transaction has to do with the transaction. However, Reuters 2 days after announced Bloomberg that the transaction had been announced. It indicates that the CEO, that BHP, withdrew the offer for Anglo, to the extent that the shareholders of both companies, Anglo and Teck, were going to reject it, and that BHP's own shareholders had reconsidered this last attempt to acquire the company. On December 9th, Anglo and Teck shareholders must vote to approve the merger of both companies. But it is still subject to the decision and approval of the governments of Chile and the United States and Canada. The question moving forward is what will happen with BHP. BHP has a significant interest in acquiring new copper assets, indicating a strong focus on expanding their portfolio. BHP's portfolio mainly consists of greenfield projects focused on copper production, which will require several years to develop and establish, as production in existing reserves will gradually deplete. Anglo was the most appealing objective, just like Teck, in a secondary consideration, because both companies have 3 major mining projects combined in Peru and Chile. What industry analysts say is that this latest attempt by BHP to acquire Anglo underscores what has been mentioning it at the PDAC in the past. An asset consolidation is on the horizon due to the absence of reserves in production that could enhance the company's performance. This impending move aims to boost results, existing ones, and the interest is mainly in copper. BHP has indicated that it has enough projects to maintain its value, its valuation and growth. However, the industry tends to doubt it. They have focused on making acquisitions in Argentina, but rather small ones, and there is nothing on the horizon, at least for now, to conceal the potential benefits that Anglo's acquisition could have provided him.
Now,
Positive development for Peru's copper industry, but there is also some unfortunate news.
An explanation is needed for our audience to comprehend. These major global leaders are essential players in the world stage of mining, the large global companies that invest in all countries, not in many of the mining countries of the world, such as Peru. This situation, how does it position Peru? Because these are investors who are in Peru, big ones who are in Peru. How does Peru stand?
The interest that BHP had in Anglo American was focused on the mining company, especially concerning its copper assets, more attractive aspects of the dimensions that would have assisted the company in continuing its growth. They wanted to get rid of platinum, diamonds, everything that wasn't copper. This underscores, Jorge, the fact that Peru is one of the most attractive destinations in terms of copper production. All analysts emphasize in terms of the merger of Anglo and Teck, and BHP's interest in Anglo that the destination is Chile and Peru. Regardless of the dispute with the Congo as the world's second largest producer, where there was just an accident in an artisanal mine where 32 have died, Peru's copper reserves continue to be significant and appealing to miners. An efficient strategy is to secure production through acquisition and not develop greenfield projects which inherently involve an excessive amount of time, averaging out to 18 years for each mine. And it remains important for Peru. It highlights the country's potential in this search for copper assets on a global level.
This information, Jose, is quite significant as it has also been emphasized by Jorge Leon Benavides. I wanted to ask you about the implication that it has of the fact that historically it is known that announcements of mergers, acquisitions, always have an effect on the stock price. In this case, it could be copper. Has it been so in this situation?
Behold, a disclosure from Bloomberg, Cesar, a startling insight, that, it was revealed on a Saturday and the following Monday the offer fell through in a last attempt to undo the Anglo-Teck merger. The market for copper has not reacted. It has not reacted in an active manner. The price stays above $5 per pound as it waits for the United States Federal Reserve's decision on rate cuts in December. 69% of speculators are anticipating the outcome. Of market operators expect a cut of 25 basis points. Well, Codelco is currently charging a premium for the copper it is selling to South Korea, which is higher than what they charge Europe, which indicates that the market is tightening. Freeport-McMoRan has already said it will reactivate its mine in Indonesia in July of the year 26, and there are indicators that China is processing more copper than it can procure. Prices ought to stay constant for the time being.
We extend our sincere gratitude to José Gonzáles for joining us once again. Each week, he shares valuable insights on various international mining issues. Thank you tremendously, José.
A pleasure always.
Well, now, I wanted to show you the leading magazine, not just in Peru. This is a source of pride for Peru. Rumbo Minero magazine is the leading magazine in South America. And with the figures we are going to show you at some point, South America's leader in mining, surpassing many mining countries. Additionally, I must emphasize the importance of checking out all the details provided by the dedicated team at Rumbo Minero if you wish to have a comprehensive understanding. Hey, feel free to visit www.rumbominero.com to check out the latest news updates and download the magazine that's available every couple of months. You will have new first-hand information about everything happening in the current events. From Peru. A big thank you to José Gonzáles for his help. After this, we will have a short commercial break and then continue with the program.
The prestigious Expo Mina Peru is back as the key mining event of 2026, taking place from September 9th to 11th at the Jockey Center. Lock in these dates. More than 1,380 stands, international delegations, and the latest in mining technology, with purchase intentions exceeding $700 million. Within the framework of Expo Mina, led in this edition by Roque Benavides, Executive Chairman of the Board of the Buenaventura Mining Company, the 8th American Mining Summit will be held, presided over by Carlos Castro, with business meetings and international congresses allied with Chesco and the Mining, Metallurgy, and Exploration Society. Attention providers, reserve your booth and be part of the most important mining fair of 2026. Invest wisely, invest with the leaders. More information at expominaperu.com.
Currently, we're here in our studios joined by Fernando Cillóniz, engineer and former regional governor of ICA. Welcome, Fernando Cillóniz, to the show. Let's touch on a couple of subjects. How is everything going, Fernando?
Jorge, how are you? Cesar, how's it going?
Well, you are a specialist in various topics and also in mining, but we specifically wanted to ask you about the proposal from the executive of the President Cherry about REINFO. This is to give it one more year. We have seen Guido Veide, we have seen different people like Cutipa, Congressman Guido, talking about, of course, give it until 2030 and if possible until 2040, right? But he is not completely without reason, because I personally believe that the government at this particular moment, I could get into a big fight over the REINFO, when what this transitional government needs to do is focus on the elections. And if you crunch numbers, give it a bit more time so that the next government can immediately have 6 months for a major discussion that was already held with the MAPE law, but it was shelved. I don't know if you agree or if you have a different opinion.
Yes, well, the situation suggests something similar. However, from the state political experience I had in ICA in 2015 and 2018, few, they know the influence that what I call the fifth level scab has. I have called it that because he is not the president of the republic, who may be a bad person, as we have learned, and he may be a good person. They are not the ministers, they are not the vice ministers, and they are not the general directors. It is the fifth level, isn't it? The consultant who issues a report contrary to the policy, and just for issuing a contrary report, everything stops, right? Because the comptroller bases it on that adverse report. Congress, the press. So, what I saw in IC, where there is a lot of small-scale mining besides the great mining, which is great as Cerro Lindo or Mina Justa, Shugang, and others. There is a lot of small-scale mining, especially in Nazca, and honest people, very good people. The Peruvian government was simply not prepared to grant them official status. I can certainly vouch for that because I was with them the whole time. And it turns out that in Nazca, under the pretext of protecting the Nazca lines, which I and all humanity want, it became intangible. Instead of 5,000 hectares, the area of the Nazca lines, it made 500,000 hectares intangible. I mean, they went all the way to Ayacucho, I mean, literally. So the state made thousands of small miners, copper miners in the case of Nazca, and gold miners too, informal, just for blackmailing them, for living by blackmailing them. I have come to the conclusion, informality is beneficial for the major victors. In mining, apart from the criminals, who of course take advantage, are the police, mayors, governors, prosecutors who keep blackmailing the small miners because they can't formalize, yet they operate. So they have to go through checkout, right?
Yes,
It's
your
terrible.
experience is very important, Fernando. It is certainly very valuable. But let's move on to the present. Last year, through Supreme Decree 012-2025-EM, a formalization process was established where 30,000 of those people you call the good ones, the correct ones, who are in the informal sector, artisan or small-scale mining, were incorporated and recognized by the state so that their formalization process can continue. 50,000 were excluded because they didn't have concession contracts, they didn't have machinery, they couldn't guarantee labor standards.
Sure.
Environmental, now with the opinion or preliminary opinion approved by the Energy and Mines Commission of Congress, they intend to reincorporate those 50,000 and everyone is fine. Thank you. All the politicians tell you that we can't leave them in the air. So, from your perspective on state reform, how should we channel these things?
Well, this is the typical proverb. When the waters are rough, it's a fisherman's gain, isn't it? Here they are making many criminals, right? Many politicians who live off the bribe, let's say, of all this population. So it's really very difficult. It's like, let's say, the complete breakdown of the judicial system. Wouldn't you agree? I have a total of 70 complaints, but I maintain my innocence regarding any wrongdoing during my time as regional governor. However, governors who preceded and succeeded me also have 70 complaints. And I know for a fact they are big bribe takers, aren't they? So who is the good one? Who is the bad one if we all have complaints? Something similar happens in Peruvian mining, which is a shame. Because what a marvel, the super cycle of metal prices, right? Peru missed a crucial opportunity to help millions of its citizens, particularly small miners, escape poverty. The chance to make a real difference was lost. Hard-working employees taking advantage of this super price cycle. But this must also result in a radical simplification of the administrative processes. That's pure hypocrisy, plain and simple. The formal mining sector finds things very difficult. In fact, extremely difficult to manage. You have said it in every way, and I am a witness, right? Environmental impact studies are mission impossible. All labor inspectorates are a mission impossible. It's very difficult. Look at the Tia Maria case. How many decades, right? Without being able to move forward, and yet illegal mining. The red carpet, isn't it? This is truly necessary. So I suggest a complete revolution of the state design. I like it, and we have discussed it here on more than one occasion. The autonomy of specialized services, professionalization, therefore depoliticization. You know, like the BCR, for instance, the mining policy, although it may sound contradictory, cannot be in the hands of corrupt politicians. It needs to be professionalized and shielded from politics.
That was leading to my next question. We see that in this campaign, all signs point to the illegal miners going to supporting multiple candidates,
Obviously.
ranging from congressional to presidential elections. Let's keep
Congress
pushing
is
forward.
going to be
Let's continue
funded.
moving ahead. And then we're going to see congressmen like we see them
Of course.
now, right? Defending the expansion of REINFO. How do we cut this short? Because they have a lot of interest here, right?
The deterioration of Congress will intensify, Jorge and Cesar. It will intensify. We have never had this much economic and financial capacity from criminality and illegal mining. Never. So now there are greater resources available to finance this. At the very worst of the worst, who will go to Congress to defend the indefensible, which is criminality. Our current actions as citizens are what remains at this moment, right here and now. To unmask this mafia that is going to become entrenched in the state. And I really trust the power of the press, right? Essentially, Peruvians rely on the press, not Congress, as the only oversight institution available to us. Congress should oversee through legislation, yet it fails to fulfill its oversight duties. The corrupted justice system fails to effectively punish and sanction crime, undermining its purpose and legitimacy. The public defender's office is useless. The office of the comptroller, it punishes spelling errors and does not prevent the corruption. No. The Peruvian state is dominated by corruption, with exceptions in all instances, I must acknowledge, but in general, it is dominated by corruption. And the only truly supervisory institution is part of the press, because there is also corrupt press. We know that. So, don't take this as a compliment, but what you all have done in unmasking, right? The criminality and corruption in the mining sector is outstanding. And what I see that they're doing through the radio at PBO is unique. I had never seen a mining pedagogy. Is Peru generally against mining, given the extensive reach I am witnessing here? The extent is remarkable, right? There were very few of us who supported the mining in such a didactic and thorough way. And that's why I like what you are doing, right? But there is no other space to fight. Criminal activity related to mining.
What you said is encouraging, Fernando, and I wanted to refer to your experience as governor of ICA because the discussion surrounding the state reform in Peru now encompasses a thorough evaluation of the country's decentralization process, emphasizing the need for comprehensive review. Very poorly designed, very poorly done. You had to take it on under conditions. The tools as well as political will are crucial elements in bringing about change. Their absence can make progress quite precarious. Nowadays, there are already communities coming together, creating at least spaces for reflection. In ICA, precisely next week, Andesmin is taking place, which is a mining event for the regional commonwealth. Of the Andes, that is Ayacucho, Huancavelica, Apurimac, Junin, and Ica, which is your homeland precisely, will serve as a hub. Shouldn't the actions initiated by associations result in a well-defined strategy for improving the decentralization process at the state level?
Yes, I like the concept of the Commonwealth because it closely aligns with the vision of that brilliant geographer we Peruvians had. Is Pulgar Vidal in charge of dividing the country into 5 macro regions? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, no more. It's not 24, right? And certainly not the provinces and districts, which is madness, isn't it? I am fond of the Commonwealth, but there is something about it that I am not a fan of. Is the corruption in Peruvian politics. The governors who, in some way, lead the Commonwealths alternate every 4 years. It's not every 5, it's every 4 years. And anything could happen, right? My successor has been imprisoned by the permit mafia, like the dynamic ones downtown. So you can't do anything with those people, right? I am a fan of giving autonomy to specialized public services and keeping them free from political influence. Mining should not be managed by politicians. That is my conclusion. It should be in the hands of experts, and there should be a type of central bank of resources. Of mining, right? I mean, he can't be a minister of econo, of mining. Anyone can become anything. This has been evident in recent years with people changing career paths. Every year we must ensure stability, professionalism, and meritocracy, following the example of BCR. There cannot be exceptions to this standard. Is that correct? To oversee mining in Peru with the aim of streamlining and advancing it. With a lot of emphasis, to take advantage of this super cycle. That, I repeat, I take a great deal from your message. This is going to be a prolonged period, focusing on electric vehicles, energy conversion. Basically, this is a long-term endeavor.
In the next 25 years, they say, if we don't take advantage
yes,
of
that tool
it,
is not
we
being
are
utilized at the
done for.
moment. We are halting the growth of large-scale mining while tolerating the rise of criminal activity in small-scale mining. Unfortunately, we are truly missing out on opportunities for positive change.
Agreed. I think it's conclusive. Thank you very much to Fernando Cillóniz.
And
Governor
thank you
of
for
Ica.
what you are doing for Peru and for the mining, for Peruvian mining.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here. Now, we are going precisely to the mining and society block, which is being handled by Iván Arenas.
Dear friends, a question comes naturally. Is it possible to formalize the more than 31,560 current REINFOs that exist now? The technical answer is yes, and the time frame apparently should not be in 1 year, nor in 2 years, nor in 3 years, nor indefinitely, as desired by some people, but within half a year due to a straightforward cause. Currently, there are 31,560 reinforcements. Approximately 25,000 reinforcements meet the permanence requirements. What does this mean? Let me explain, so you can understand everything mentioned before. A permanence requirement of REINFO is that it basically has an environmental management instrument that has a ARUC, and also having declared to the ministry the possibility of doing mining. The thing is that still, it does not have what is called the exploitation contracts between the concessionaire and the one who has the mining task. However, 25,000 of these are registered with MINEM, allowing for very rapid formalization. Everyone else would need to put in a great deal of effort. The Ministry of Energy and Mines is in the process of formalizing it. Additionally, that could be made less bureaucratic. Because remember that at the Regional Mining Directorate until last December, they only asked you for 2 signatures for the environmental management instrument, and now they ask you for 12 signatures to validate an environmental management instrument of a REINFO. In such a way that yes, we can ensure functionality, That is, we are capable of achieving success. That in the next 6 months, we will have the formalization of these 31,560 REINFOs. It's not like some say that it's difficult and that's why we would have to give 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. With that and much more, we will continue next week. Thank you very much.
Go.
We have reached the end of the program, but not without first analyzing what this program has been about in the mining topic. Cesar Fernando Cillóniz, former governor of Ica, is talking to us about blackmail, right? This isn't moving because there's a lot of blackmail surrounding people who want to formalize. It is essential to carefully observe and record everything, as there is a risk of slipping into a state of informality or even illegality at times. But sometimes there is a business underneath, right? What he is reporting, right? That it is extremely important to take note, right? And the work of the press to audit, to impose, right? Well, we are grateful for your kind words. However, he is determined to pursue the mining route. That is his main objective. What they want to do is also provide options, provide the path so that they become formalized. Because Peru won't win unless those who want to formalize do so, right?
Which speaks to the culture and ethics we must also create for them. To human resources, Jorge, as it's rarely mentioned. For example, a reform of the National Penitentiary Institute has now been proposed. And why is there no discussion about the corruption that is perpetually generated within the prisons because the officials of the INPI are neither adequately prepared nor ethically supervised? As Cillóniz also rightly said, in the field of the police and other aspects. And José Salardi, ex-Minister of Economy and Finance, I think it's quite remarkable on his part that he views it with a lot of optimism and expectation. In any event, considering the manner in which the economic policies are being directed within our nation, with perhaps more effective fiscal control, and especially with this aim to shorten all the bureaucracy that does tremendous harm to mining.
I really want to hold on to a specific phrase that Salardi mentioned. Informality is more expensive than being informality. I believe that being a former Minister of Economy and Finance who has calculated it, it's important that the path to follow for informal miners who want to legalize, said by a former Minister of Economy and Finance who was in this government, well, in the previous government, a few governments ago, being casual leads to higher expenses than being informality. Let's put our beards to soak. That has been just a fraction of our contribution. The program for today will continue to air at this exact same time as always, so that you all can, for further insights into the Peruvian and worldwide mining industry, seek information from Cesar Campos.
Thanks, Jorge.
I am Jorge Leon, grateful for your presence here and looking forward to future interactions with you. The next program on this very channel